Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and one nonprofit is recruiting men to help stop and end the abuse. Here are the numbers. 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner, according to the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey. And while men are typically the perpetrators of violence, the National Coalition of Domestic Violence found that 23% of men in Michigan experience intimate partner violence, rape, or stalking. This places men in a very unique place in which they can discuss among themselves both the impacts of violence on victims and how their experiences could lead to violence. Haven is the nonprofit in Oakland County that's been calling on men to raise their voices on this issue. The organization as a whole aims to eliminate domestic violence and sexual assault, and it also provides resources to survivors in their time of need. Each year, Haven recruits 100 men to lend their voices and support their communities in this effort to eliminate domestic violence. Christine Kinal is Haven's CEO. She joins me now to discuss men's role in addressing this very important issue. Christine, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Christine. So first I want to talk about Haven itself and the work you all do. You all provide essential services, as I said, to adults and children who need support. What kind of services do you offer folks in that essential time of need?
So we provide emergency services that are immediate aftermath of experiencing a domestic violence situation or assault, which includes emergency sheltering. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, domestic violence leads to homelessness, financial problems, children being displaced, so we provide a safe home in that space. We also provide counseling services, court advocacy. In the event that there's an abuser arrested, then we navigate that court process and the system with the survivor is what we like to call it, Haven, but the victim in the law enforcement space. And then we provide forensic nursing services that provide in the immediate aftermath care to a victim, which includes a sexual assault kit, providing evidence for criminal prosecution if they choose to prosecute. Oftentimes they'll do the exam and make sure that everything's okay, but we'll house that kit in the until they're ready to prosecute. Oh, yeah. And then I did mention counseling services, but we provide everything from vital records to get children registered in school. If they're displaced, we provide transportation to and from school. We coordinate and collaborate with community partners. We work with Care House in Oakland County as well, which is more of the counseling aspect for sexual assault victims who are children. So we're really integrated in the community and collaborate often to get people who are victims of crime to find their path forward.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask that is because it's the people hear about the initial instances, but they don't know about all the different supports that survivors need and all the different places they need to engage with in order to be able to continue on, hopefully outside of that circumstance. So I'm glad you ironed that out for us. Now, to the broader issue of domestic violence and addressing men, oftentimes kind of our first instinct when we think about addressing it is to think about how to protect the survivors, to protect the victims, or explain to survivors how their behavior can change. But this approach, it would appear at least, does both of those things. It offers supports to survivors, but also holds men who disproportionately inflict this crime, is why I say that, holds them accountable. Why is that important?
So really getting men to the table is the only way. If you look at our vision, it's pretty lofty. You mentioned it earlier is that we would love to eradicate violence in the home. And it takes men to be at the table for us to navigate and let them know they're strong proponents of the same, and they're digging their heels in against violence in the home as well. When it's majority women who are at the pulpit and giving this message, we're finding through our preventative education, which we do in schools and workplaces and everything, is that we have young men standing up, which is fantastic. That, when I was younger, I'm a Gen Xer, when we were younger, we didn't talk. Nowadays, people are being more, they're standing up, they're brave, they're finding the space for their voices to be heard. So young men are standing up stating, well, they're feeling like they're being targeted or being called abusers in these preventative education classes, and that's not the case. Men are absolutely abused. It's 1 in 4 men throughout the country. Nationally, 1 in 3 women are being abused within their homes, and it's unacceptable. And we should never allow that to to perpetuate. And if we don't have a male voice echoing and helping us in the preventative education space, then we're it's going to fall on deaf ears. We need men to stand up against the violence as well.
I said in the open of this segment that men have this unique role because they are coming from two different perspectives, being survivors and being disproportionate. I mean, that doesn't mean you yourself are, but you're in a community where we know that disproportionately men are inflicting the violence. Is that an accurate, I guess, unique perspective that men can bring to this conversation amongst themselves about how this issue plays out and what we can do to prevent it?
Yeah, I think so. But, as far as disproportionately inflicting the violence, that I don't really have the statistics to support that. But what I do have the statistics to support is that men are victims of violence as well. So our goal is to recognize that men and women are victims of this crime, and they're not alone. We do know that men and women are also the abusers as well. When you're talking about the infliction portion, is we do and we can collaborate with other aspects. We do collaborate with some of the courts, like in Southfield, that they do have a program where if someone is convicted of a domestic violence, they do have to go to some therapeutic counseling, some groups that they have to participate in a year to recognize, where does the anger come from, and kind of find some systemic issues and try to uncover that so they can move forward in a path forward without violence as well. So, like you take children, children are affected by domestic violence alarmingly. I myself was a secondary survivor in a home of violence and who was not my father, but I can see that when it is your father, you can have, a systemic, I guess, a way that you may now abuse or think that it's acceptable, or that's all you know, so you don't know anything different. So, Haven, we'd like to get that message out there, but we are specifically victim-centered in recognizing that it's not always the men who are the abusers, that we want to find a path forward for everybody, if that makes sense.
You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II. My guest is Christine Kinal. She's the CEO of Haven, a nonprofit in Oakland County that aims to eliminate sexual and domestic violence. Haven wants to recruit 100 men to lend their voice to mitigate the issue in their communities. And you can do this by going, if you're interested, you're listening, and you want to be one of the men that can step up, you can go to their Men of Haven event on October 23rd. It's from 6 to 8 at Haven's headquarters in Pontiac. Christine, what will this event be like? When men show up, what are they going to get?
So what we're going to do is give, first of all, we'll open our doors with open arms. We are so excited to have this event, and it started, I think it's important for you to know where it started. It started with an idea years ago. I mean, Haven's been 50 years now in operations, and it was 1,000 men campaign was the goal. And we recognize we had like 5 people. 5 men show up and say, hey, we want to be a part of the broader community. We do have a lot of men on our board of directors. Yeah. We have a lot of volunteers, but we need to just start. Let's just start with 100, because I think we can do that, and coming here today is when they come in, we're going to obviously welcome. We'll have some snacks and, some food and drinks and everything, and some networking opportunities for men, because I think it's important for men to know, and we network in community as to who, what are you involved in? Are these folks that I want to be in? And I assure you there's some great men that are going to show up. But what it comes down to is the goal is of that meeting, we hope to build almost a committee-style form where we get men of different diversity, where they have different backgrounds, education, a different socioeconomic, racial, everything, so we can come together and really have everybody at the table as to how do we navigate, how do we, who's interested in doing a preventative education tabling event with us at Wayne State University. Yeah. We might have a gentleman who has experience, maybe a survivor, who comes forward and has something to help us, to get the message across to our young men in community and in schools. We could have, different educational doctors, providing care, to clients, or, it's a way for us to kind of uncover and bring the men together to find what we think the men need. I can't speak from that. I mean, I can say I have brothers and everything like that, but we really need men at the table to help us navigate what does Men of Haven look like moving forward, helping us with donor relations, helping us with bringing funding in, helping us, more importantly, navigate that preventative education, and that that these young men are not alone and that they're not the abusers. We want the education to come forward to say that they understand and how it's our responsibilities as, women and then obviously men to take action and take ownership of our actions and make changes, make cultural changes. Don't whistle at girls in short skirts when you're driving down the road. Right. To kind of resist some of these cultural things that are put in through media and television and take a stance and like, what does it look like in a healthy relationship? Having men help us. What does consent look like? What is, how do you stay safe on campus? And for a man to say that, it resonates better with young men.
I actually was going to ask you a question about that because if I understand you correctly, it sounds like we want to put together like a council of men to kind of, what I initially thought was weigh in on programming, kind of what should we provide to the community. But it also sounds like there is this kind of cultural conversation element. And I'm wondering, is that amongst the men you collect, or is it about creating a program that then goes out into the community and it encourages that kind of conversation?
Well, I think right now we provide programming that provides consent, cultural awareness, and how sexual assault and domestic violence somewhat seem normalized in media and television. And how do we, when you go 50 years ago, you didn't see the things we see today. We've grown in other ways in a positive way, too. Like I said, open conversations wasn't 50 years ago either. But what we're looking for is to take the content and programming we have and for men, to teach the men of Haven and to show them like what we're about so they can help us bring it into community. But also exactly what you're saying is now we need the perspective of 100 men to really give us what is the next step forward and how we can make a larger impact in the Detroit area.
I see. So it is about both of those kind of work hand in hand, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And you've done this every single year, right? This is an annual event.
No, this is the first.
This is the first?
This is the first
okay.
Because, we dug out that legacy information and found this wonderful dream of getting 1,000 men, and you look at kind of like we're coming into Halloween time and we have our Detroit men who go around the neighborhoods so kids can trick or treat. And, this powerful group, I forget what the name of 300 men. Do you remember the name?
I don't.
Regardless, they're just a great group of men who come out and just want to ensure safety in the streets of Detroit, So, I don't know where it started, but when I pulled this folder out, I thought, oh my gosh, I want to get these men on board.
I know the organization you're talking about. The name is slipping my mind, and it's going to kill me. But I think I know the organization you're talking about. I'm familiar.
Yeah, and it's
the name
to create like a safe trick or treating experience and to
Absolutely.
keep and this is really the same idea as we want to get men to come out, and it's such an impact. It's men taking back their communities, men saying that violence is not tolerated. Women, we are doing that, right? We are doing it. The perception is that we are doing it because there's so many advocacy agencies out there, and we're mostly women who work there. But we really need men to make this mission work and to make this to reach our vision.
Absolutely. We are running short, so I'm sorry to hop in there and cut it off. But for the men out there who are listening, the call to action is there for Haven. Go ahead and head to their event. It's, again, October 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be at Haven's headquarters. Thank you so much, Christine, for joining me on the Metro.
I appreciate you guys having us.
Coming up, we're going to look at what it would look like to offer reliable and strong leadership to young men on the Metro. Stay right there. We'll be right back.